The champagne tower came down before anyone screamed. 1 second I was in my wheelchair beside the photo platform, trying to keep my hands on the rims and my voice calm. The next second, my sister Brianna had both hands under my arm, yanking me out of the chair like I was a crooked prop ruining her engagement party. I remember the first row of glasses tipping. I remember sunlight catching the champagne as it spilled. I remember the sound, glass breaking in waves, one crash, then another, then 100 smaller cracks as crystal hit tile and shattered under the weight of the tower behind it. Then I hit the ground. My shoulder struck first, my cheek scraped across wet tile, my hands landed in broken glass. Sharp pain opened across my palms, my wrist, my neck, my jaw. Champagne soaked my pale pink dress and mixed with blood until the floor beneath me looked like somebody had spilled a cruel kind of rosé. I could not move my legs. I could not sit up. And above me, my sister looked down at her ruined designer lace gown and screamed, "Look what you did to my dress! Not are you hurt. Not call an ambulance. My dress." That was what mattered to her. The whole garden went quiet. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Guests froze with flutes halfway to their mouths. My mother made a sound like she wanted to faint, but I knew that sound. It was not fear for me. It was fear that people were watching. Brianna pointed at my matte black wheelchair, now sitting a few feet away where I had been pulled from it. "I told you that ugly thing would ruin everything," she shouted. "I told you it looked like a black stain in my photos." Then a woman's voice cut through the air. "Nobody touch her." It was not loud. It did not need to be. People obeyed before they even knew why. An elegant woman in a cream suit crossed the lawn fast, dropped her handbag into the grass, and knelt beside me in the champagne and glass without caring what it did to her clothes. Her hands went to either side of my head, firm and exact, holding my neck still. "Imani," she said, close to my ear. "Do not move. Keep your eyes on me. I have your spine." I knew that voice. Dr. Valerie Whitman, chief neurosurgeon at St. Catherine Medical Center, the woman who had opened my back 24 months earlier and put 8 screws into my shattered spine. My sister did not know who she was. Brianna thought this was just Marcus's aunt, one more wealthy relative at the engagement party, one more woman she could charm with a smile and a glass of champagne. But Dr. Whitman knew every inch of the injury Brianna had caused, and this time she was not holding a scalpel. She was holding the truth. Let me go back 1 hour, because cruelty like that does not begin with a shove. It begins with all the small permissions people give it. My name is Imani Brooks. I was 32 years old when my younger sister Brianna decided my wheelchair was an aesthetic problem. 2 years earlier, I had been a dance teacher with a small studio, a bad habit of overworking, and legs that could still carry me across a room when music came on. I taught ballet to children who could not afford private lessons. I kept extra leotards in my office, sewed shoes after class, and believed my body would always answer when I called it. Then Brianna drove us home from our cousin's birthday dinner. She was angry at an ex-boyfriend and texting at every red light. Then not just at red lights. I told her to stop. I told her to pull over. She told me I was dramatic and that she could handle a phone and a road at the same time. On a curve, the SUV left the lane. There was a tree. Then there was the ceiling of an ambulance. Then there was Dr. Valerie Whitman telling me that my spinal cord injury was complete at T10 and that she had done everything possible to stabilize what was left. I did not dance again. I did not walk again. For 6 months, I used a heavy hospital chair that made every doorway feel like an argument. Later, after saving every disability payment, every freelance editing check, and every birthday envelope from relatives who did not know what else to do, I bought my own ultralight carbon wheelchair. It was matte black. It weighed 18 pounds. It moved like freedom. People who do not need mobility equipment sometimes think a wheelchair is a symbol of loss. Mine was not. Mine was the first piece of my life after the accident that felt chosen by me. That was why Brianna hated it. She did not want me looking independent. She wanted me hidden, soft, pitiful, easy to explain. After the crash, my parents helped her rewrite the story. Brianna had been driving. Brianna had been texting. I had been sober in the passenger seat, telling her to watch the road. But when I woke after surgery, my mother sat beside my hospital bed and cried about how Brianna's whole future would be ruined if the police report became a scandal. "You already lost so much," my mother said. "Do not make your sister lose everything too." My father stood in the corner with his arms folded. "Family protects family," he said. That phrase became a padlock, so I said I could not remember clearly. Then I said maybe I had distracted her. Then, over time, the story became even worse. Brianna started telling people I had grabbed the wheel. Then that I had been drinking, then that I exaggerated my injury because I liked attention. My parents never corrected her. They corrected me. "Keep peace, Imani. Do not embarrass your sister. She is dealing with guilt in her own way." Her own way looked a lot like cruelty. Still, when her engagement invitation came, I went. I went because grief makes you bargain with people who have already spent you. I had missed birthdays, barbecues, 1 Thanksgiving, and 3 Sunday dinners after the accident. Not because I wanted distance from the whole family, but because every room became a courtroom where I was expected to apologize for evidence. If I transferred from my chair too slowly, Brianna sighed. If I declined a staircase, my father looked inconvenienced. If I mentioned insurance, my mother said my tone was bitter. My old dance student sent cards. Parents from the studio brought casseroles. One little girl mailed me a drawing of a ballerina with wheels instead of feet and wrote, "Miss Imani can still fly." I kept that picture on my refrigerator for a year. My own sister never visited my apartment after I came home from rehab. She sent flowers once. No note. My mother later told me Brianna had been too emotional to write one. That was the family rule. Brianna's feelings were always full people. Mine were weather. For months I tried to rebuild something small. I taught online movement classes for children. I edited dance program bios for extra cash. I learned how to transfer to the shower without fear. I learned which grocery store aisles were too narrow and which strangers thought grabbing my chair without asking was help. I learned that independence after disability is not one dramatic victory. It is 100 boring battles before breakfast. The chair changed everything. The hospital loaner was heavy and loud. It made me feel like a patient even in my own kitchen. My black carbon chair was different. The first day I used it, I pushed from my building to the corner market without needing to rest halfway. I came home with a bag of oranges in my lap and cried in the elevator because it felt like the world had opened by 12 inches. So no, I was not going to put ribbons on it, and I was not going to let Brianna make it ugly because black did not match her flowers. That is hard to admit. The invitation was thick ivory paper with pink foil edges, Rosemere Botanical Conservatory, Saturday afternoon, spring pastel attire required, baby pink, mint, cream, or soft yellow. No exceptions. No exceptions. I read that line twice and knew it was aimed at me. My wheelchair was black, not charcoal, not gray. Black. I considered staying home. I sat with the invitation on my kitchen table for 2 days, touching the raised letters and telling myself I was done letting them hurt me. Then I thought of the old Brianna, the girl who used to braid my hair before recitals, the girl who once slept on my floor during a thunderstorm because she was scared, the girl I kept trying to find underneath the woman she had become. So I bought a pale pink silk dress from a department store clearance rack. It draped nicely over my legs. I did my hair in soft waves. I put on lip color for the first time in months. Then I wrapped a gift, vintage pearl earrings. Not expensive by Brianna's standards, but meaningful. Years before, when we were still sisters in the real sense, she had told me she loved old pearls because our grandmother wore pearls in every photograph. I found a pair from an estate seller, saved for them, and told myself she might understand. Hope can be a stubborn little thing. It can also be humiliating. Before I get to the photo platform, tell me where you are listening from today, because I always wonder how many people have sat at a family event already knowing they were walking into pain. Rosemere looked like Brianna's imagination had been given a blank check. Pink roses spilled over white columns. Mint hydrangeas lined the walkway. Cream lilies filled urns taller than some of the guests. Ribbons moved in the breeze. A fountain glittered in the center lawn. The champagne tower stood near the photo platform, 7 tiers of crystal glasses rising like a sparkling threat. Every surface was soft, pale, expensive, and arranged. Then I rolled in. My black chair made a quiet sound on the stone path. To me, it sounded smooth and controlled. To Brianna, I suppose it sounded like rebellion. She stood near the fountain in her lace gown, one hand tucked around the arm of her fiancé, Marcus Whitman. Marcus was kind in the 3 times I had met him, soft-spoken, thoughtful, an architect with gentle hands and a habit of listening before he answered. I had often wondered what he saw in my sister, but Brianna was a gifted performer. She could make herself look tender in front of strangers. She knew how to tilt her head, soften her voice, and turn damage into charm. Marcus smiled when he saw me. Brianna did not. For a second, her eyes went straight to the chair. Then she arranged her face. "Imani," she said, "you made it." Not "I am glad you came." You made it. Like I had completed an obstacle course she expected me to fail. "Congratulations," I said, and held out the small wrapped box. She took it with 2 fingers. "You did not have to." "I wanted to." She opened it right there, which should have been my first warning. Her eyes dropped to the pearls. Her mouth tightened. "Are these used?" "Vintage." "So used." Marcus looked uncomfortable. "They are beautiful." Brianna ignored him. "They do not match my dress," she said, setting the box on a cocktail table like it was a napkin. "But thank you." I smiled because my mother was watching. My mother has a face she makes when she wants me to absorb pain quietly. Chin dipped, brows pinched, eyes warning me that my job is to keep the room smooth, so I kept it smooth, for 5 whole minutes. Then Brianna stepped closer and lowered her voice. "What is that?" "What?" "That." She pointed down. "The chair." "My wheelchair. Do not be cute with me." "I am not." Her smile stayed fixed for the guests behind her, but her voice sharpened. "It looks awful. Everything is pastel. Everything. The flowers, the table settings, the backdrop. And then you come in with that black machine like a funeral cart." I stared at her. "It is how I move." "You could have decorated it." "Decorated my mobility aid?" "Some ribbon, flowers, a cover, anything. I asked for a color palette." "You asked for clothes." "I asked for perfection." That sentence told me more than she meant it to. She turned suddenly and crossed to a service table where spare linens were stacked. She grabbed a white tablecloth and snapped it open. The fabric cracked in the air like a flag. When she came back, she tried to drape it over my chair, over my wheels, over my legs, over me. "Put this on," she hissed. "No. Do not start." I said no. Her eyes widened. It was such a small word, but I had not used it with her in a very long time. She leaned close enough that I could smell champagne on her breath. "You are so ungrateful." "For what?" "For being included." There it was again. Inclusion as a favor. My presence as charity. She jerked the tablecloth back and walked away, but not before saying under her breath, "Selfish little martyr." For the next hour, she worked the party. I watched her move from guest to guest, touching arms, whispering, glancing back at me. I saw the looks change around me. Pity first, then suspicion, then that careful politeness people use when they think there might be something wrong with you and they are proud of themselves for being nice anyway. Later, I learned what she had said, that I exaggerated the paralysis, that the wheelchair was partly for attention, that the accident had been complicated, that I had always been jealous of her, that she loved me but I made it hard. That last one was her favorite. I parked near the rose garden and told myself I would stay for one photo, one toast, then leave. Marcus tried to come over once. Brianna intercepted him before he got halfway across the lawn. She looped her arm through his and steered him toward an older couple near the fountain. He looked back at me, confused, but he let her guide him away. That was Brianna's gift. Redirect, soften, smile, control. At 4 o'clock, the photographer called for family photos. I knew trouble was coming before my name left Brianna's mouth. "Imani," she called, sweet as sugar. "Come join us." I rolled toward the platform. The setup was beautiful if you did not know it was a trap. Pale flower wall, white chairs, ribboned cushions, the champagne tower glittering to one side. My parents stood near the center in their best clothes. My father kept adjusting his cufflinks. My mother kept watching my wheels. At the far end of the row sat one decorative chair, pink ribbon tied around the back, straight arms, no side support, no belt, no cushion, no way for me to sit safely without sliding or tipping. Brianna gestured to it. "You can sit there?" "No." Her smile froze. "Excuse me? I cannot sit in that chair. It is just for a photo. I have a T10 complete spinal cord injury. I do not have the core control to balance there safely." I kept my voice calm, clear, public. My mother whispered, "Imani, please." "Please what? Please risk falling so the photograph looked neat? Please let my sister hide the evidence of what she did?" Brianna stepped closer. "Do not make this about your condition. It is literally about my condition." The photographer lowered his camera. Marcus looked between us. "Brianna, if she needs the chair, let her stay in it." For 1 second her mask slipped in front of him. Not fully, just enough. "You do not understand," she snapped. "This is our engagement portrait. Her chair ruins the line." "The line?" he said. She caught herself and laughed too brightly. "I just mean the composition." My father came close, lowering his voice like that would make his words less cruel. "Just try, Imani." I said no. Brianna's face flushed. Then she bent down and whispered into my ear, "You are jealous because I still have a life." The words went through me slowly, like a blade that wanted me to feel every inch. I looked straight ahead. "Move away from me." "Stand up then." "You know I cannot." "I know you like saying that." Then she grabbed me. Both hands under my left arm, fingers digging into soft skin, pulling hard enough that my shoulder wrenched. I tried to catch the wheel rim with my right hand, missed. My body came forward, heavy below the waist, impossible to control once my balance tipped. Someone shouted. Marcus said, "Brianna, stop." She did not. Her heel caught the edge of her own gown. She stumbled and released me to save herself. That was the whole shape of our lives in one motion. She caused the fall, then saved herself. I hit the champagne tower. The first impact knocked air from my lungs. The second opened my hands. Glass burst around me. Champagne soaked my dress, my hair, my face. My head hit tile hard enough that the sky flashed white. I could hear my mother screaming my name then, but still not moving toward me. Brianna was crying over her dress. I lay there afraid to breathe too deeply because my neck hurt, and when you live with spinal hardware, fear has a very specific language. Do not twist. Do not roll. Do not let anyone lift you wrong. Then Dr. Valerie Whitman reached me. Her cream suit landed in the mess beside me. Her hands took my head. Calm settled around her like a field. "Imani Brooks," she said, "I know you. You are going to keep still." "Doctor?" "Yes, I am here." I started to cry then, not because of the pain, though the pain was everywhere, because for the first time in 2 years, someone with authority knew the truth before my family could poison it. Dr. Whitman looked up. "Marcus, call 911. Tell them spinal cord injury, head trauma, multiple lacerations, and assault. Tell dispatch police are needed." "Assault?" Brianna shrieked. "She fell." Dr. Whitman's voice did not rise. "I personally performed the spinal fusion on this woman after the crash your family buried. I know exactly what her body can and cannot do. She did not fall because she is dramatic. She fell because you pulled her from the mobility device that keeps her safe." The whole lawn heard it. I felt the silence change. Dr. Whitman continued, Do you want to argue neurosurgery with me in front of witnesses? Brianna said nothing. It might have been the first wise thing she had done all day. The minutes before the ambulance came felt stretched and thin. I stared up at tree branches and pieces of blue sky while Dr. Whitman held my head steady. She talked to me the whole time. Breathe in. Good. Breathe out. Any new sensation? No. Any new pain below your injury line? I cannot tell. That is all right. Stay with me. Around us, guests whispered. I heard pieces. She grabbed her. I saw it. The sister did that? Was she really texting during the accident? My parents were silent. That silence told me they were calculating. They were not asking if I was alive. They were already measuring damage to Brianna. The paramedics arrived with police close behind. Dr. Whitman gave my medical history like a battlefield report. T10 complete injury, hardware at T10 and T11, cervical pain after fall, concussion risk, multiple lacerations. She needs collar, board, imaging, and transport to Low Country Regional. I will accompany. No one questioned her. As they fitted the collar around my neck, an older man in a gray suit stepped forward. Officer, he said, I saw the whole thing. The policewoman turned to him. Name? Daniel Pierce. I was standing less than 6 feet away. The bride-to-be grabbed her sister under the arm and pulled hard. The victim told her she could not use the chair. This was not an accident. Brianna's voice cracked. Daniel, please. He did not look at her. She caused the fall. Those 4 words were a door opening. Another guest stepped forward after Daniel. Then another. The photographer raised one hand like a schoolboy and said his camera had been recording test shots before the formal portrait. He had not planned to film the whole scene, but his camera had captured enough. Brianna leaning down. Me shaking my head, her hands on my body. The pull. My mother made a strangled sound. Do not, Dr. Whitman said without looking away from me. It was only 2 words, but my mother stopped. For years, my mother could silence a room with disappointment. That afternoon, she met a woman whose authority did not depend on family guilt, and she had no idea what to do with it. The police officer asked the photographer to preserve the file. He nodded quickly and began backing it up on a second memory card, while his assistant stood beside him like a guard. Evidence was multiplying in real time. That was new. In my family, evidence usually disappeared into a kitchen conversation, a softened phrase, a memory everybody agreed not to trust. But this time the truth had timestamps, camera angles, medical credentials, and strangers willing to say what they saw. For 2 years, my truth had lived behind my family's locked mouth. Now a stranger said it plainly. She caused the fall. One of the officers approached Brianna. Ma'am, we need you to come with us for questioning. No. She backed away. This is my engagement party. Ma'am? Marcus, tell them. Marcus stood beside his mother and Dr. Whitman, face gray, phone still in his hand. I saw you grab her, he said. Brianna stared at him like he had betrayed her. You are supposed to be on my side. I was. The officer reached for her arm. Brianna jerked away and tried to push through the crowd toward the conservatory doors. The second officer caught her other wrist. The cuffs clicked. That sound was small, sharper than the champagne glass. My sister began to sob, not pretty tears, real panic. Mascara down her cheeks, dress stained with champagne and blood, hair falling out of its pins while guests stepped back to avoid touching her. My mother finally moved, toward Brianna, not me. Even strapped to a backboard, even bleeding through gauze, I noticed. My father held my mother back before she could interfere with the officers. Smart. He was always smart when the consequences might touch him. The paramedics lifted me into the ambulance. Dr. Whitman climbed in beside me without asking permission. You are not alone in this, she said. I closed my eyes. I wanted to believe her. 2 days later, I woke from a half-sleep in a private room at Low Country Regional Medical Center with 32 stitches, bruising along my shoulder, a concussion protocol bracelet, and no new spinal damage. No new spinal damage. That sentence was a mercy. Dr. Whitman had insisted on the private room because the story had already reached local news. Someone's phone video had hit social media before the ambulance even left the garden. The angle was shaky, but clear enough. Brianna grabbing me falling, the glass coming down, police taking her away. Society engagement ends in arrest. Bride accused of assaulting wheelchair-using sister. The headlines made my stomach twist. I had spent 2 years trying to be invisible. Now strangers were discussing my body, my chair, my family, and my blood over breakfast. I should have felt vindicated. Mostly, I felt tired. Late that afternoon, Marcus came to the hospital. He stood in the doorway like a man asking permission from a room. "Imani? Come in?" He looked terrible. Suit wrinkled, eyes red, no engagement ring box in his hand, though I noticed the pale line on his finger where his own ring band had been. "I am so sorry," he said. I believed him. Some apologies arrive clean because the person saying them has nothing to gain. "She told me a different story," he said, sitting carefully in the chair by my bed. "About the crash. About you." "I know. She said you were driving." I looked toward the window. "I know." "She said you had been drinking and grabbed the wheel. She said she spent 2 years trying to forgive you for ruining both your lives." I let out a breath that hurt my stitched side. "I do not drink. I was a ballet teacher. I barely drank coffee before performances." "I know that now." Brianna was driving. She was texting an ex. I told her to stop. She looked at the phone on a curve. That is all. Marcus put both hands over his face. My aunt pulled the records. Right then, Dr. Whitman entered with a folder tucked under her arm. "With proper authorization," she said. She laid copies on the rolling table. Toxicology report, police notes, surgical summary, imaging, the original accident file. Imani had a blood alcohol level of 0, Dr. Whitman said. The responding officer noted phone distraction by the driver, Brianna Brooks. Passenger injury consistent with right side impact. There is nothing in these records that supports the story Brianna told you. Marcus read in silence. By the second page, his jaw was clenched. "Why was she not charged then?" I answered before Dr. Whitman could. "Because my parents told me I would destroy her future." My voice sounded far away, but steady. "They said insurance would come after her. They said she might go to prison. They said I already lost my legs, and I should not make everyone lose Brianna too." Marcus looked sick. "They asked you to lie while you were recovering from spinal surgery?" "They did not call it lying. They called it family." Dr. Whitman's expression hardened. Coercion after a traumatic injury, possible insurance fraud, false statements, and now assault. Marcus stared at the folder. "I almost married her." "You did not," Dr. Whitman said. "That matters." The door opened before anyone could answer. My parents came in like a weather system. My mother, Denise Brooks, rushed to the bed with her hands out. "Baby, thank God." She grabbed my hand too hard, right over a bandage. I pulled away. My father, Roland Brooks, stood at the foot of the bed in his Sunday suit, the one he wore when he wanted people to think he was reasonable. "We have been so worried," he said. They had not called the day before. They had not come until Brianna needed something. My mother looked at Marcus and Dr. Whitman, then back at me. "We need to speak as a family." "Then speak." She did not like that. She liked soft entrances and private corners where she could make me doubt myself. "Imani," my father said, "we need you to tell the police this was a misunderstanding." There it was. No, how is your head? No, we are sorry. No, your sister almost killed you. Just fix this. My mother leaned close. "Say Brianna was helping you. Say you lost balance. Say everyone got excited and misunderstood." Marcus made a sound under his breath. My father shot him a look. "This is family business." Dr. Whitman stepped forward. "No, Mr. Brooks, this is a criminal investigation." My mother's face tightened. "With respect, doctor, you do not understand our family. I understand spinal trauma and assault." Brianna was stressed, my mother said. "The wedding, the photos, the pressure, and Imani knows how she can be. She gets stubborn." "About not being pulled from a wheelchair?" Marcus asked. My father ignored him. "Imani, your sister could go to prison." She shoved me into glass. She panicked. She grabbed me after I said no. "You could help her." I looked at both of them. For 2 years they had trained me to feel guilty for surviving what Brianna did, but the hospital room was different from our kitchen table. There were witnesses, records, a neurosurgeon. A man who had almost become my brother-in-law and now looked horrified enough to tell the truth. So I let my face go tired. Not defeated. Tired. "This is not up to me," I said softly. "Police have video, medical records, and Daniel Pierce's statement. The state decides what happens now." My parents exchanged a look. They heard powerlessness. They did not hear refusal. "All right," my mother said, patting the blanket. "You rest." My father nodded once. "We will handle what we can." They left without touching my forehead, asking about the stitches or looking at the folder on the table. When the door closed, Marcus stood. "What does that mean?" "It means they are going to try to make the evidence disappear." Dr. Whitman took out her phone. "Then we make sure it does not." She called her attorney, Leonard, right there, and told him to notify Daniel Pierce of witness protection rights, documentation procedures, and penalties for witness tampering. Marcus called Daniel himself. By dinner, Daniel had already reported 2 strange calls from an unknown number. My father moved fast, but this time, other people moved faster. The next morning, hospital security stopped my parents at the elevator. Dr. Whitman had restricted my visitor list. My mother sent 6 messages, each one a different costume. Concern, anger, scripture, guilt, threat, concern again. I did not answer. Around noon, Marcus came back with soup and a folder of his own. "I broke off the engagement," he said. "I am sorry." "Do not be. I should be apologizing to every person who ever tried to warn me." "Did she?" "Brianna screamed for 20 minutes, then told me your lies had poisoned me." He looked at the soup container instead of me. "Then she said if I loved her, I would ask Daniel to change his statement." "And?" "I told her love is not a felony." That made me laugh, then wince because laughing pulled the stitches near my ribs. Dr. Whitman came in during that wince and threatened us both with hospital gelatin if we made her repair anything. For the first time since the party, the room felt almost human. Then the legal call came. Attorney Simone Grant from Grant & Bell introduced herself as the victim advocate attorney assigned to help me through the process. "Ms. Brooks, I want to be direct. The evidence is strong. Video, independent witness, medical testimony, and your prior spinal injury make this serious." "How serious?" "The prosecutor believes a trial could result in up to 10 years, possibly more depending on final charges." 10 years. The number landed in the room and stayed there. 10 years would take the rest of Brianna's 30s, her wedding, her parties, her perfect photos, her curated life. All of it would turn into visiting hours and state-issued clothes. I expected satisfaction. Instead, I felt heavy. Simone continued, "Her defense has asked about a plea. Reduced charge, guilty plea, and prison time closer to 2 years, with possible parole after 18 months, but only if restitution is paid in full and you are willing to submit a statement supporting leniency." Restitution? Medical expenses, future therapy, adaptive care, pain and suffering, and punitive damages. We are asking $420,000. My hand tightened on the phone. My parents do not have that sitting around. Then they will have to decide how badly they want the plea. What happens if they cannot pay? We proceed. And Brianna risks 10 years. Yes. Simone paused. This is your choice only in one narrow way. You do not decide whether the state prosecutes. You decide whether you are willing to support leniency if the financial terms are met. $420,000. I thought about the wheelchair I had bought with birthday checks and disability payments, the apartment with a bathroom too narrow for my chair. The therapy sessions I skipped because insurance called them maintenance instead of treatment. The way my parents had never once offered to pay for the damage their favorite daughter caused. "If they pay in full," I said, "I will support the reduced sentence." Simone's voice stayed calm. "I will communicate that." My parents came that evening. They looked older than they had in the morning. My father did not sit. $420,000, he said. Yes. My mother had no makeup on. That scared me more than tears would have. "Imani, we cannot get that kind of money." "You can." My father stared. "Excuse me?" "Your retirement accounts, the sailboat, the home equity." My mother's hand flew to her chest. "That is our future." My spine was mine. My father went red. "You want to ruin us?" "No, I want restitution." "For your own sister?" "From the people who protected her after she hurt me." My mother sat down heavily. "We did what we thought was best. For Brianna. For the family. I was family too." The silence after that felt almost physical. My father looked away first. "Good. You have 7 days," I said. "If the money clears, I sign the leniency statement. Brianna serves 2 years instead of risking 10. If not, the case goes forward. You would send her to prison for a decade." "No, Brianna sent herself when she put her hands on me in front of witnesses." My mother started crying then. Real tears this time, I think. "How did you become so hard?" I looked at the bandages on my hands. "Practice." They left without another word. The next week was strange. I stayed in the hospital longer than medically necessary because Dr. Whitman insisted my concussion be monitored, and because the truth was that I had nowhere accessible to go. My old apartment was a 3rd-floor walk-up. My parents' house was no longer home. Brianna had made sure of that long before the engagement party. Marcus visited every day, always bringing food that did not come in a plastic hospital tray. He never overstayed. He never asked me to comfort him about the engagement ending. That made me like him more. Dr. Whitman checked my stitches, bullied the insurance company on my behalf, and once brought me a soft blue blanket because she said hospital blankets were designed by people who hated patients. Daniel Pierce sent a signed affidavit through Simone after my parents tried calling him twice. My father left one message saying Daniel may have misunderstood the angle. My mother left another saying, "Good families do not destroy young women over accidents." Daniel forwarded both messages to the prosecutor. Witness tampering was now part of the file. My parents had taken the last lifeboat and punched holes in it themselves. On the 6th day, Simone called. "They are liquidating assets," she said. "What assets?" "Both retirement accounts. They will take a significant tax hit." The sailboat was sold to a broker for immediate cash, well below market. They also signed a high-interest home equity loan for the gap. I closed my eyes. Will it clear? Barely, if the wire posts by tomorrow. The old Imani would have felt guilty. That guilt knocked on the door. It did not get in. At 4:46 p.m. on the 7th day, Simone called again. Funds cleared, $420,000 in the trust account. I did not cheer. I did not cry. I just looked at my black wheelchair parked beside the hospital bed and thought, finally, they paid for something they broke. The plea hearing happened 2 days later. I did not attend in person. I watched by video from the hospital room with Dr. Whitman on one side and Marcus on the other. Brianna stood in court wearing a plain navy dress, her hair pulled back. No lashes, no gloss, no stage lighting. She looked smaller without an audience trained to admire her. She pleaded guilty to aggravated assault. The judge accepted the plea. 2 years in state custody, with possible parole after 18 months for good behavior. Mandatory anger management, community service after release, no contact with me unless I initiated it. Restitution already paid. My victim impact statement was read aloud. I wrote about the fall, but also about the crash. I wrote about the way lies can be another kind of injury. I wrote that I wanted consequences, not revenge. I wrote that if prison gave Brianna the first honest mirror of her life, then 2 years might do more than 10. When the judge sentenced her, Brianna covered her mouth. For once, she did not look angry. She looked afraid, maybe even sorry. But I had spent too much of my life mistaking a moment of softness for a change of character. My parents sat behind her, holding hands. They did not look at the camera. After the hearing, Marcus stood. "This is goodbye," he said gently. "I know. If you ever need anything through my aunt, you have her number." "Thank you." He hesitated, then said, "I am sorry I met the real you too late." That one hurt, but not in a cruel way. "You met me in time to tell the truth," I said. "That mattered." He nodded and left. Dr. Whitman stayed. "Now," she said, "we plan your life." And we did. Planning my life started with things my family had never wanted to discuss because practical needs made my injury too real. Housing, equipment, therapy, transportation, legal protection. Dr. Whitman brought in an occupational therapist named Mrs. Alvarez, who had the blunt kindness of a woman who had seen too many patients sent back to homes designed like traps. She asked questions nobody in my family had asked. Could I reach my stove controls? Could I transfer to my bed safely when tired? Could I get out of the apartment if the elevator stopped? Did my bathroom door open inward or outward? How much pain did my shoulders carry after a full day in the chair? I answered, and felt embarrassed by how many solutions I had been living without. "None of this is luxury," Mrs. Alvarez said, marking notes on a clipboard. "This is access." Access, another word my family had treated like a favor. Simone helped me structure the restitution so I did not receive one giant temptation for relatives to circle. A portion went directly to medical bills. A portion went into a protected account for future care. A portion went toward housing. The rest sat where only I and my attorney could move it. "Your parents will ask," she said. "They cannot possibly ask me for money after all this." She gave me a look that told me I was still learning. They asked 4 weeks later. Not directly at first. My mother sent a letter saying the home equity loan payment was cruelly high and that my father had chest pains from stress. My father wrote that retirement penalties were more severe than expected and that mature adults revisit financial arrangements when emotions settle. Neither letter used the word sorry. I returned both unopened after that. When Brianna entered custody, my mother left one voicemail from a blocked number. "I hope you are satisfied," she said. "Your sister is behind bars and your father cannot sleep." I saved it for Simone, then deleted it from my phone. Satisfaction had nothing to do with it. I was busy learning how to live somewhere no one had the spare key. The restitution money changed everything, not because money healed my spine. It did not. Not because it made the trauma clean. Nothing does. But money gave me choices my family had kept out of reach while pretending pity was help. I paid off medical debt. I bought a fully accessible apartment in a building with an elevator, wide doorways, roll-in shower, lowered counters, and sunlight in the kitchen. I replaced equipment I had been patching together for months. I set aside money for future care. I hired an attorney to protect the rest. Then I cut contact, blocked numbers, returned letters unopened, told building security not to admit my parents. The first time my mother came to my new lobby, carrying a grocery bag like a peace offering, I watched through the security camera from upstairs. She told the desk attendant she was my mother. He called me. "No visitors," I said. She looked up at the camera then, like she knew I was watching. Her mouth formed my name. I turned off the screen. It was not easy. Freedom is sometimes hardest in the first quiet after the door closes. For weeks, I woke up reaching for guilt like a phone on the nightstand. I wondered if Brianna was safe, if my parents were eating, if the home equity loan had ruined them, if I had become cruel. Then I would transfer from bed to chair, roll into a bathroom built for my body instead of against it, make coffee in a kitchen I could use without asking anyone to reach a cup, and remember the truth. They did not become hurt because I stopped saving them. They became visible. The first night in the new apartment, I slept badly. Not because anything was wrong, because nothing was. No stairs, no narrow doorway, no bathtub I had to fear, no mother calling from another room to ask why I was taking so long, no father sighing outside a car while I folded my chair, no Brianna turning my needs into proof that I was inconvenient. Silence can feel suspicious when you are used to tension. At 2 a.m, I rolled to the kitchen and made tea. The mug shelf had been installed at shoulder height. I reached it easily. That small motion undid me. I sat there under the soft cabinet light, crying into peppermint tea because a cup had become reachable. The next day, I bought flowers for myself. Not pastel roses arranged for photographs, sunflowers, loud yellow faces in a blue vase on my table. When Dr. Whitman visited that weekend, she looked at them and nodded. "Good," she said. "A room should know who owns it." I kept that sentence taped inside a kitchen drawer for months, not on the wall where guests could see it, just somewhere private, where my hand would find it when old guilt tried to make the apartment feel borrowed. 18 months passed, my hands healed, leaving thin silver lines across my palms. My concussion symptoms faded. The case disappeared from the news. Brianna went to prison. My parents sold their sailboat memories and their comfortable retirement to buy her a shorter sentence. I did not know if they blamed her. I suspect they blamed me. Blaming me was their family tradition. I built a new one. Dr. Whitman connected me with the Geneva Neurotechnology Clinic, where researchers were studying spinal stimulation and neural interface therapy. She was careful, as always. "No miracles," she said, "no promises, but you are young, healthy, and stubborn." Is stubborn billable? In your case, medically relevant. So I went. The Portuguese coast was not part of the treatment plan at first. It became part of the healing plan after I met Celeste. Celeste volunteered with international patients at the clinic. She was 35, warm, sharp, and fluent in 3 languages when doctors were speaking, and 6 when telling off insurance representatives. She had cared for her older sister through a spinal injury for years before losing her to complications, and she carried grief with the practical tenderness of someone who knew love was made of appointments, medication schedules, and showing up on the ugly days. She became my friend slowly, then quickly. One afternoon, after a therapy session that left me exhausted and furious, she brought sandwiches to the courtyard and said, "You are allowed to hate this and keep going." I laughed because it sounded like something Dr. Whitman would say if she had better snacks. Celeste started calling me little sister after she caught me trying to adjust a loose wheel bracket with a butter knife instead of asking for help. "Little sister," she said, taking the knife away. "Survival skills are not the same as common sense." I should have hated the nickname. I did not. Found family does not erase the first family. It teaches your body a new answer when love enters the room. Celeste also had no patience for spiritual speeches that skipped the hard parts. When therapy hurt, she did not say everything happened for a reason. She handed me water and said, "That was awful." Again tomorrow. When I cried because another patient took 3 assisted steps and I could not make one muscle answer, she did not shame me for envy. She said, "You can be happy for him after lunch. Right now, you are allowed to be human." When my parents' letters came through an aunt, Celeste read my face and asked one question. "Do you want comfort or strategy?" Nobody had ever given me that choice before. Sometimes I wanted comfort. She sat beside me and let me be silent. Sometimes I wanted strategy. We forwarded the message to Simone, blocked another number, and went for coffee. That is how I learned safety can be ordinary, not dramatic, not earned through suffering. Just someone remembering how you take your tea and not treating your boundaries like a debate. 3 weeks ago, during a visualization session, my right big toe moved, barely. A whisper. A tiny pull under the skin that could have been imagined if the sensor had not recorded it, and if Celeste had not seen it with her own eyes. She screamed so loud the therapist dropped his pen. I cried so hard I could not repeat the movement for 20 minutes. It was not walking. It was not a movie ending. It was one nerve pathway blinking in the dark after 42 months of silence. That was enough. Now I am sitting beside the ocean on the Portuguese coast, my black wheelchair bright in the sun, the same chair Brianna tried to hide under a tablecloth. Celeste is beside me with sunglasses on her head and a paper cup of coffee in her hand. The water is blue in a way that makes language feel underfunded. My phone buzzes in the side pouch. I almost ignore it. Then I see my mother's email address. No subject line. One attachment, a photograph of a handwritten letter. The handwriting is Brianna's, still neat, still pretty. Prison did not take that from her. I read it once, then again. Imani, I am sorry for the crash. I am sorry for the party. I am sorry for taking your dancing and then acting like your pain was an inconvenience to me. I do not expect forgiveness. Prison showed me how empty I was. I am trying to learn decency from the beginning. Live well, Brianna. That was all. Celeste watched my face. Bad news? I looked at the ocean. For years I imagined an apology like it would be a key, like the right words from Brianna would unlock something in me and let me step out of the past. But sitting there in the sun, with salt air on my skin and my chair steady beneath me, I realized I had already left. The apology did not hurt. It did not heal me either. It simply arrived at an address where I no longer lived. No, I said. Not bad. Do you want to answer? I thought about my parents, the courtroom, the rose garden, the champagne tower, the tablecloth, the hands under my arm. Then I thought about my apartment, my therapy, Dr. Whitman's voice, Celeste's laugh, my toe moving 1 impossible millimeter. No. I deleted the email, not because I hated Brianna, because I did not. And that was the freedom. I did not need her punished again. I did not need her forgiven by me. I did not need my parents to understand. I did not need the old family to become something it had never been. Brianna could learn to be decent somewhere far away from me. My parents could call that cruel. They had called everything cruel except what happened to me. Celeste stood and came behind my chair. Ice cream? My treat. Obviously, she said, you are the rich little sister. I laughed, and this time nothing in my body braced for punishment. She pushed me along the coastal path, and the wheels moved smooth over sun-warmed stone. The ocean wind lifted my hair. Children ran ahead with melting cones. Somewhere behind us, a street musician played a song I did not know but wanted to remember. My legs still did not move except for that tiny toe. My sister still caused the crash. My parents still chose the lie. All of that remained true, but it was no longer the whole truth. The whole truth was this. I survived the fall. I kept the chair. I bought the life they never meant to give me. And I found people who did not need me hidden to love me in public. So tell me honestly, if your sister caused the injury that changed your life, then humiliated you in front of everyone and your parents still begged you to protect her, would you take the restitution and cut them off, or would you leave a door open for family that never protected you?